Good evening, folks, and welcome to the latest edition of the RO Sports Show, and more specifically, this week's Raider Wrap-Up. All of that brought to you by royellow.com, Richmond County's newest online business directory. And we're being joined this week by head football coach of the junior varsity squad, Coach Patrick Hope. Coach, we really appreciate you joining us this week. First of all, congratulations, 30 straight wins. You've been a part of that in some capacity, so congratulations on that success. First off, let's talk about the first week's performance against Anson County. Obviously, we know last week's performance, our game got canceled because of the hurricane against Butler. But let's rewind here a couple of weeks. First off, quarterback Harley Honeycutt completed 10 of 16 passes for 213 yards and 3 touchdowns. It's obviously a great game. He connected with 5 different receivers that week. Now, in the past, you guys have obviously relied heavily on the running game. So, passing game, going to be more implemented this year? Is that going to change?
Well, we definitely feel like we've got guys that can contribute in the passing game with both Harley and Emmanuel Gilliam, our freshman quarterback. Our receiver core is really good. Javar Stanback, Chandler Orr, guys that caught passes, Dante Baldwin, as well as Samaje Jennings. We feel like we've got a really well-rounded group there. Early on, normally the offensive line is normally the last piece of the puzzle to get going, and with it being a mix of freshmen and sophomores, we know it's going to take a while, but they did a great job in protecting. The biggest thing for me is to try and stay balanced, to be able to do both, not only when we want to, but when we need to.
And mentioning the fact that it's freshmen and sophomores, obviously on the varsity level, it's a little bit easier to have guys coming back, year after year. But it seems like every year you're basically starting from scratch, right? How difficult is that?
It's different. It's you kind of at the JV level. It's as much varsity-like. We try to make it as varsity-like as possible in that we're going to give the kids a game plan. We're trying to get them to understand that they are going to play how they practice. So we really put a lot of emphasis on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday getting ready to play. And part of that, what helps us with that is we get the scrimmage against the varsity running the opponent's plays. So we feel like if we can play fast and maybe even make a dent against our defense, that we should be able to handle anyone we play against on Thursdays.
Well, to piggyback off of that, how involved are the varsity coaches and players with the JV program?
Plenty. The varsity coaches saw pretty much every player in the program during the summer. Got some instruction with them during skill development during the summer months in June and July. Even the support that our varsity coaches give the JVs, whether it's going to our games, home or away. I can remember we had a preseason practice and several varsity coaches were there even though they had a scrimmage later in the evening in Fayetteville. So I think I think it keeps the kids focused at the varsity coaches that they're going to play for in the future are keeping tabs on them now and that they want to be able to make a positive impact.
All right. Let's rewind back to that Week 1 game against Anson. So the JV Raiders had 4 fumbles. You guys had an interception in the season opener. How's the team working toward reducing turnovers?
We stress ball security. I know it didn't look like that the first day, but we really emphasize on 100% ball security in the game. We talk about, everyone having a role to play in it, the offensive line blocking, the running backs taking care of the ball since they handle it a lot, quarterbacks not throwing the ball in jeopardy. And if we can finish with possession and move the ball down the field, it leads to touchdowns. So really just, emphasizing that, running a couple of drills that really emphasize that has helped us out a lot. And I think it's something that you try to stay as positive as you can with it. You don't really say don't turn the ball over, but you say, high and tight, securing the ball, take care of it, tuck it away, little things like that.
All right. Let's talk about the defense. So you guys limited Anson to just 74 total yards of offense in Week 1. So what has the defense done to get ready for a Cardinal Gibbons team that scored 54 points against a pretty good Heritage team in their season opener?
Well, with us being as good as we are passing the ball on JV, they see a lot of passes against us in practice. A lot of our secondary players, Jamari Brody, Travion Short, got a lot of work with the varsity in a lot of the prominent 7-on-7 events that they played in this summer. So they've got a chance to play against some older kids and adjust to that speed and be able to recognize and make plays on passes. And I think a few of those turnovers that they forced were interceptions, so it was good to see them kind of track the ball and make a play on it and give us a couple of extra possessions on offense.
Going back, as I mentioned, unfortunately, last week's game against Butler was canceled due to the hurricane. Do you think that cancellation will negatively impact tonight's game at all?
I don't think so. I'm a realist in that I try to get the kids to understand, stay in control of what they can control, and what we can control is our effort and focus to get better. We were all disappointed when we found out Wednesday afternoon, but we just said I kind of tried to make it a non-factor, and it turned out to be one of our better practices of the season.
Good. Yeah, not much you can do about it when it comes to weather, right?
True.
A couple other questions here. What are some of the biggest adjustments that players have to make when transitioning from middle or freshman years football to the junior varsity level?
Speed of the game, I think, will be one thing. I think the talent level kind of evens out at JV. So if you've been kind of the dominant guy at the middle school or the youth levels or even freshman ball, it kind of balances out a little bit more to where now you really have to rely on technique and assignments to get things done. So it's and really we focus a lot on the same schemes that they'll run on varsity. So you get kind of a mix of all of those things in there, and for some guys they pick right up on it. For some other guys it takes a little bit more time. But the biggest thing we do still try to emphasize is effort and playing fast. You're going to make mistakes. Make them as fast as you can and play harder than the person in front of you, and you'll still get good results.
All right, and last question. You guys won the SAC last year, of course, went undefeated. How's the SAC stacking up this season, and do you guys feel like you got a good chance to repeat?
Well, I know conference-wise, this conference is really competitive at the varsity level, and you don't get that competitive conference without, it happening at kind of the grassroots and the JV level. So we know that everyone's kind of gunning for us. We take it one opponent at a time. We know that there are a lot of teams. We try to stress to our guys that, when other teams play Richmond, it's a big deal. So we want to build our guys up to be able to take their best shot and be able to still come out victorious.
All right. Well, that's going to do it, Coach Hope. I really appreciate you joining us, head coach of the junior varsity squad. Of course, good luck to you guys tonight against Cardinal Gibbons. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to head back to the studio. Russell Parker is going to join us. We're also going to head to the whiteboard, take a look at the NASCAR playoffs and who he thinks is going to be left standing when it's all said and done. We'll be right back. 40 teams and drivers started the 2019 season in February, each with the hope of winning the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series Championship. But after Indianapolis, only 16 will get the opportunity. 4 drivers battled for the bottom 2 spots. In the end, it was Jimmy Johnson and Daniel Suarez having their dreams cut, while Ryan Newman and Clint Boyer make it into the big dance. Welcome back to the RO Sports Show. We're now, of course, being joined by Russell Parker for Ross Racing. And as we just mentioned, 16 drivers will battle for the Cup Series Championship. 2 drivers will not. Now, one could argue that Suarez missing it is due to a lack of experience, being only his 3rd year on the Cup level, but Jimmy Johnson has missed the playoffs for the first time in his career. How did that happen?
Man, it took 26 races to get this moment, and he was about 18 to 19 points out from being able to get himself in. He had a good run there towards the end of it. Unfortunately, his teammate William Byron came down below him on a restart and caused a 3-wide scenario, and they all kind of got into it with one another, and Johnson ended up being on a really hard crash at the end of that part. So unfortunately for him, his day was done early and did not get to move on, and for the first time in his career not making the playoffs, that's a huge deal, I think, for NASCAR, because it's kind of like Tiger Woods missing the majors, or even Dale Earnhardt not making it into a championship run, or anyone who's really big on the athletic scene and not making it into their respective whatever their playoff or just being in that hunt. It's just really mind blowing to say that your best is not competing for the championship.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is 15 years that it's been until Jimmy finally missed the playoffs, right?
Yeah, definitely, and it's really a great feat for him to be able to do that. So, I mean, it's pretty incredible, and, hopefully we'll see maybe a change later on, but who knows? I mean, anything can happen. I mean, right now, anything can happen. So I don't know. I mean, Jimmy has been one of the greatest, 7-time champion, tied with Dale Earnhardt and Richard Petty for the most all time. It's pretty incredible, but
it is. So you mentioned, his day got cut short. Let me ask you this: for his career, is it time for him to hang it up and cut that short?
Well, in his post-race interview, which I'll say post-race, I mean post-wreck interview because he didn't get to finish to the post-race part of it, but he was very optimistic, and this might actually be a good thing that he missed it for him personally. With being 15 straight there, I mean, he's always had a pressure that he has to make it. Maybe now that he didn't make it, he can focus on his relationship with his new crew chief, Cliff Daniels, working on that to better out. I mean, this season's not done. There's still 10 more races. Even though he's not in the championship run, he's still got 10 more races to improve that relationship, which he feels he's in a better place than he was earlier this season with him. Continue on that focus, and not having that pressure on him is probably going to make him a lot better driver moving forward. I don't think he's done. He was very optimistic about moving forward anyways. There's some drivers and former drivers in the garage who's said that he's told them that he's not done, and they believe him. So I got to believe what they're saying too. I don't think he's done.
Yeah, and we've kind of speculated on Jimmy for the better part of this entire NASCAR season. 15 years in a row making the playoffs in any sport is just astronomical and should be congratulated. Just because you missed your respective playoffs one year doesn't mean you should just go into retirement,
I mean, it's just like, saying right now with Tiger Woods' way he's been playing, he missed some. Of course, he's had some injuries that was dealing with that, but he got back into it, and I do believe that Jimmy Johnson can get himself back into it as well because he's the best. I got to say, he's the best right now in the sport, even though he's not showing it right now. Overall, I think he's one of the best drivers the sport's ever seen.
I'll give you a great example. LeBron James. Mm-hmm. Perhaps, I don't know now, but for the last 10, 12 years has been the best player in the NBA. Went to the Lakers in the offseason. They missed the playoffs. LeBron didn't turn around and say, all right, that's it, I'm done. No, you improve, you try to get better in the offseason, and even though both are getting older in their respective sports, doesn't necessarily mean you should hang it up. So
yeah, I completely agree.
Well, the playoffs are here starting this Sunday night at Las Vegas. Russell and I have a special piece put together making predictions about the playoffs. Let's take a look. All right, Russell, so we've got the Ross Racing 2019 Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. Time for some predictions. Now, we've got 1 through 16 that you've written out here for us. This is already the guys that are set. Before we head to Las Vegas, I'm going to read through these real quick. Starting from 1, we got Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., Joey Logano, and Brad Keselowski in your top 5. Kevin Harvick, Chase Elliott, Kurt Busch, Alex Bowman, and Eric Jones in the top 10. At 11, we've got Kyle Larson. Number 12, Ryan Blaney. William Byron at 13. Eric Amarola at 14. And the bottom 2, as we mentioned, Clint Boyer at 15. Ryan Newman at 16. So, in the round of 16, the boys will go to Vegas, Richmond, and one of our favorites, the Charlotte Roval. Yeah. So you got moving on.
Well, I think going into Las Vegas, I feel like Logano is going to be the best one here. He won this race, dominated it earlier this season. He's got to be the favorite to win this. So I go ahead and put him over into the round of 12 to go ahead and start this whole thing off. He's just been on spot. He's been a little inconsistent lately, but he's seen the found his mojo at Indy, so he might be revving it back up for the playoffs.
All right, so we've got one spot. Who's up next?
Richmond, I think Martin Truex Jr.'s got this one. He's been on the ball with short tracks, and he's been very consistent at those places. He won earlier this season. Actually beat Logano for earlier race win at Richmond in I believe that was the spring. So Truex obviously is another favorite for this one.
Okay, and once again, heading back to the Roval, who's going to tame it?
Kyle Larson may have not been in the ending with Truex and Jimmy Johnson and Ryan Blaney still to win, but Larson had the most laps left this race, and I believe he's going to be another one to win.
Larson all the way down at 11, moving up. All right. Well, that brings us the top 3 spots, but as you can see, we've got plenty more to fill here.
So I feel like Kyle Busch is already giving me. In fact, Kyle Busch all the way down to Brad Keselowski. Or actually more like Chase Elliott is pretty much in. I mean, they got so many points to start off each of these rounds. It's really hard to hit them unless they hit some really bad races coming up. And with Las Vegas being a mile and a half, Richmond might be the only one I can see them having trouble at. Now, the Roval does have some new They do have a new layout in the backstretch with the new chicane. They reconfigured it, so maybe that might be some hiccups for some drivers, but really I think that those guys are going to be okay.
So am I caught up here after I include Elliott?
Let's see. Yep, right after Elliott. And
Okay.
then number 9, I've got Kurt Busch. I think he should be able to make it all the way through. He ran a pretty solid race at the Roval, as well as Las Vegas and Richmond. He does pretty well at these tracks, and being a veteran that he is, having a lot of mojo going through these races, especially this season with Chip Ganassi, I think he's going to make it. And then for the ending here, I think Blaine's going to make it in, although I think it's because the Roval will save him. I think he's going to have some trouble early on. He didn't do too well at Vegas earlier this season, despite his teammates having a good solid run. Richmond, okay, but I think the Roval is where he's going to stand out.
All right, 2 spots left.
Alex Bowman is definitely one to get in. I mean, he finished 4th at the Roval and 11th at Las Vegas, and I think those are good numbers for his first round to make it in, especially over some of these drivers who only have maybe 1 point below him. And that final spot goes to Clinton Boyer. He showed a lot of resilience at Indianapolis. I think he's going to have what it takes to move on. I mean, he's had top 3s in all 3 of these tracks this season, so of course not in the Roval, but he did last year. So Boyer obviously in.
All right, Killer Bees finishing out the top 4 there. Now I got to bring it up here. Let's see who's not making it. Eric Jones, you got him out.
Yeah.
Let's see, William Byron, you've also got him out.
Yeah, and I believe Eric Amarola as well.
Yep, and Ryan Newman, correct?
Ryan Newman, yes.
All right, so why these 4? Why don't you think they'll make it?
Eric Jones has had a good season, and he's got his 1 win. Re-signed with Joe Gibbs earlier this week, and I think that he's going to be one of those bad luck drivers. There's always a bad luck driver somewhere in this case. I think he's going to be it. William Byron has been pretty strong. The only place I see him do well at is the Roval, but I don't think it's going to be enough considering the other 2 races. And with Ryan Newman, he's been struggling to stay in that bubble. I'm not sure he can continue on for 3 races here. Now, I know he will do whatever it takes to win a race or to get himself in, or that means he wrecks someone. Who knows? But I don't think he's going to quite make it on. I don't think being just consistent enough is going to make it him.
And as we saw last year, the Roval primed for some wrecks. So
no doubt.
Perhaps we'll see some more of that. All right, well, that sets our round of 12. After that, the big boys head to Dover, Talladega, and Kansas. So you want to move forward and see who's our top 8 after that?
Well, for the round of 12, I mean, this is a pretty crazy round right here with Talladega. But for Dover first, I got Chase Elliott. He won this race earlier last year, this same race last year, actually. And I can see him moving forward for sure. He's like a strong driver at Dover.
Big jump there, too, from 8 to 1. All right, speaking of 2, who's coming in?
For Talladega, this is a wild card race. I mean, anything can happen at this track. Nobody knows what's going to happen. That's why I picked Alex Bowman to win this race.
Wow.
Him and Chase Elliott and the Chevrolets did really well earlier this season at Talladega, working together. I think they'll try to do the same strategy, but this time instead of Bowman finishing second to Elliott, it'll be Bowman finishing ahead of his teammates.
All right, so that's 2 guys towards the bottom. You've seen jumping up to the top. Who you got in the 3rd spot?
Kansas, Harvick did really well at this racetrack earlier this season, but he didn't quite finish it out. But I think him and his team are on the right move this season now, and I think he's got what it takes to move forward.
All right, so Elliott, Bowman, and Harvick as your top 3 out of the round of 8. Got to fill the rest. Who you got?
Yeah, I think Kyle Busch again is going to make it. I mean, he's so many points in. I think the only way he can get out is if he has a really terrible day at Talladega, gets involved in a wreck early on. But
which is not unprecedented.
It is not, and we've seen it happen before with big driver names not making it because of Talladega. Now, also, I've got Denny Hamlin. This guy has been on fire this season. He's been flying under the radar. And if one of the other drivers don't win at these 3 tracks, I think he could be one of those guys to finish really right up there with him. Another guy, Truex, has to be in there once more. I mean, this guy's, like I said earlier, he's been running pretty consistent. He didn't have a great day at Indianapolis earlier this week, but he's been having some strong momentum anyways moving from before that. I
got to say, so far, a name I'm not seeing. Where's he at?
Oh, well, he's right here. Logano, he's going to make it on. So, I mean, Joey earlier said he's got some good runs here. In Talladega, the Fords have been great there in the past. They won this race last year. I think they can possibly do it again if they don't, if they can work together against the Chevys. But we'll see how that goes. Okay. And then number 8, his teammate Brad Keselowski has to make it through. Not Ryan Blaney, unfortunately, but Keselowski also been a guy that's been kind of
flying under the radar a little bit this season in addition to Hamlin.
All right, so now we've eliminated Clint Boyer. We've eliminated Blaney, correct? Kurt Busch not getting in.
And
And who are we missing here?
I believe we are missing Larson, yes.
Oh, Larson from the 3 spot left out. All right, just like we did in the first round. What's up with these 4 guys?
I mean, Kurt Busch and Kyle Larson, they're working as teammates this season. They've been working really well with their Chip Ganassi driver, Cruz, but I don't know if they have the power to take on the power of Penske and Gibbs. So those guys have just been crazy. And then Elliott and Bowman's kind of been representing Hendrick this season very well. I gotta say, those guys probably have just the more power. And with winning the races, they add more bonus points to their arsenal. That's going to help it out as well. So as well as Ryan Blaney, I think he's going to be the guy who gets the battle up here. I think he's going to be one of those guys that get involved with Talladega and can't make up the points come Kansas. Boyer, I mean, he's won at Talladega before. And Dover, he's been pretty solid there, but I'm just not quite sure. Now, he could win at Kansas. This is his home track, essentially, but I don't know. He's just kind of be that odd man out. Again, going up against Penske, Gibbs, those guys are really difficult.
Real quick before we move forward, Talladega. Obviously, we know that for the big one, if you will. Does NASCAR throw that one in there in the middle of this for that reason?
Well, it's always been
kind of a wild card, if you will.
It's always been in the last 10 races, and it happened. Used to it would be the last race, the knockout race of that round. They moved it because there was so much pressure then. Now it kind of alleviates just a little bit, but that pressure's still there, and someone's going to be feeling that come that race.
Yeah, literally and figuratively a knockout race. All right, well, that leaves us 8 drivers left in the round of 8. Next time, the guys will head to Martinsville, Texas, and Phoenix. So who's your championship for?
Well, to win Martinsville, Denny Hamlin. He's been great at short tracks this season. I feel like this is going to be a win for him. He won that New Hampshire. He's also got a couple other races that won underneath him. Texas is another one comes to mind. He could even very well win that, but I don't have him winning that race.
Okay.
I actually got Kyle Busch, his teammate, winning that one. He's been pretty solid at Texas and pretty solid overall. It's hard to go against him this late in the season.
Guess I can just put Bush now, right?
Yeah.
I'll put K Bush just in case. All right. Second half here, 3 and 4. Who you got?
All right, so for ISM Phoenix, I've got Kyle Busch again. So no need to come over here and write that one down. He's going to take 2 for 3 in that round. I would say Harvick, but he didn't perform well earlier this season at the track that he usually dominates. I don't think this rule package works in his favor at ISM, so I don't really see that happening. But I do see him advancing into the championship 4, so you can write his name down because he has been pretty much on fire lately, especially his win coming off Indy and a few other wins lately as well. Michigan, and there's been a lot of momentum around that 4 team.
All right, tough decision here. Who's number 4?
Yeah, and I was bouncing between Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski on this one. I mean, Logano's been very consistent for parts of the season. Like I said earlier, he's getting his mojo back, but Brad Keselowski just seems like he's going to take the edge on this one. Right. I feel like Brad Keselowski is back at his kind of the top of his game right now, and he could very well make a good run for the championship at Homestead, as well as getting a good run in at Phoenix and Texas, especially Texas.
All right, so while I finish this up, you've got to tell me, obviously there's some big names that I'm crossing off here. The biggest, of course, are defending champions, so what leaves these 4 guys out moving forward?
Well, Logano, like I said earlier, he's been consistent, but he's not been the greatest moving forward, so I'm not quite sure how to bring him into the championship 4 against guys like Hamlin and Busch, who automatically lock themselves in, according to me, and Harvick just racing really well overall, and then Keselowski, I just think he gets the edge. As with Truex has been a great driver this year, but I don't think he's got it quite enough to make it, as well as Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman, great drivers, but with like I said earlier, the power of Penske and the Gibbs, I just can't see that changing up a whole lot here.
All right, so we've got our championship 4 when they head to Miami at Homestead. Who's your champion?
Well, I'll say this, something I noted right here. All 4 of these drivers, well, 3 of them have won a championship already. One of them has not. That is Denny Hamlin. He's never won a championship. The other 2 are one-time champions. Also winning their races. Well, Keselowski actually won his before the playoff era started. He won it in 2012. The other guys have won it during the playoff era. But Denny Hamlin has been stellar this season. He's been flying underneath the radar. He's not been that driver everyone's been paying attention to. Nobody really thought he'd be up here, and nobody paid attention to him until
He beat Matt DiBenedetto at Bristol, and now everybody's looking at him like, whoa, hey, this guy's actually been here all season. And what happened? So Denny Hamlin, it's his year. I gotta say, I'm not a big fan of Denny Hamlin on a fan level, but at a racing level, he's really outperformed this season, and I feel like this has got to be his year. It feels like Logano from last year wasn't really there, but he stuck around all the way through the playoffs, made it happen. I think Hamlin's going to be that driver.
All right, so you've got Denny Hamlin starting off at number 2 as we currently sit to number 1 as our champion when it's all said and done. So with them heading to Vegas, time for you to place your bets. Russell says Denny Hamlin will be your champion in a few weeks. So let's head back to the desk. 10 more races. So a couple of interesting picks you made, Russell, but with how unpredictable the playoffs are this season, I'm not quite sure you'll get all of them right. But you know what isn't unpredictable? When Kevin Harvick wins a race, his son Keelan is going to be there to help celebrate. Harvick won his second Brickyard 400 on Sunday in dominating fashion. But that's not the biggest story out of this race. Behind Harvick, Joey Logano finished second, and in third place was Richard Petty Motorsports driver Bubba Wallace.
Yes.
So Bubba got his best finish since the 2018 Daytona 500 where he placed second. Of course, it was an emotional moment for him then when he had his family with him, but this podium finish at Indy sparked confidence in the nearly 26-year-old. Is Bubba beginning to finally hit his stride?
I think so. In his post-race interview, he talked about having one of the best cars he's had all season, and they brought pretty much their best to it. And, man, he was 2 spots away from making the playoffs by winning that race. And, some people could call it a fluke, but when they had multiple restarts coming in late in that race and he was still third, he continued to consistently take that third spot. He couldn't quite finish up finished by passing Logano, and Harvick was fast all there. There was no way you could pass him. Logano was pretty consistent too. So for him to be up there, and you could argue that like drivers like Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski got knocked out of the race, but at the same time, he did survive it. And he has definitely made a lot of strides lately. He's been doing very well, and I know that guy can do a lot better in top tier equipment. Richard Petty Motorsports is not quite up there as a better funded team, but for him to go out there and pull off a third place finish at the Brickyard, that's just really incredible for him and his team.
Real quick before we move on, I know that Bubba Wallace's numbers are not up there with some of the upper echelon guys, but popularity-wise, he's pretty popular, isn't he?
Yes. He is one of the most charismatic guys right now in the garage, and great with the fans. I mean, when you have rain delays, he's out there on the side of the track playing football with the fans in the stands. So,
there you go.
And he's just always great at making appearances for anything he's involved with. I remember watching him I was at the Martinsville pre-race event going on before the race, and he was up there answering questions. He was just having a lot of fun with the fans out there, and he's definitely one of the best advocates for the sports for sure.
That's definitely what you want to see. No doubt the Bubba was in the groove at Indy, but Russell, who else was in the groove for this week?
So the Cup Series, I want to note Clinton Boyer. Of course, he made the playoffs, and that's the main reason why he got it, despite starting third and finishing fifth. But he had such a great day. It was kind of do or die for him in this race, and he just put on one heck of a race today. Sunday, he dodged so many wrecks that could have took him out and has kept his cool throughout the race and made it through. And keeping it cool for Clinton Boyer is really difficult to do. And for Xfinity Series, I got Jeb Burton, who started 12th and finished 4th. Jeb hasn't really been in NASCAR scene lately, and for him to come back out here for the Xfinity race, he did pretty well at some truck races in the past. I actually raced out here in Rockingham at the last truck race we had. So to see him back out there doing some good finishes, it's pretty cool to see.
All right. Well, with the playoffs starting, what better track is there to kick it off than at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, where just north of the track is the Strip. So go place your bets on who will win it all, but also if you're there tonight, you might catch Burnout Boulevard, where the NASCAR drivers have a burnout competition on an intersection of the Strip. That sounds pretty cool to me. But after that, things get serious with the race on Sunday night. So, Russell, what are you expecting to see in Sin City?
Well, earlier this season when we got to Las Vegas, it was really kind of the first time we got to see this new rules package come into place. When can you stop saying new? Is it now kind of start saying current, I guess you could say? But,
Newish.
Yeah. Logano and Keselowski had a really dominating race that year. I expect to see, and kind of like what I talked about earlier in the segment, I mean, Keselowski and Logano should do very well at this track. But I do expect to see Kyle Busch being up there as well. I think those three are going to battle it out really hard moving forward in that race. And it's kind of a night race this time around, so the track's going to play differently from what we saw in the daytime earlier this season. Of course, different temperatures and all that. So I do expect to see the three drivers running up front, but I think Keselowski's probably going to be your best bet.
All right. Well, we'll get your official predictions later on in the show. But for now, it's time for Track Facts, brought to you by ROYellow.com, Richmond County's new online business directory. Following the final closure of Stardust International Raceway all the way back in 1971, the Las Vegas Speedrome was in development. It consisted of a road course and a drag strip. Alex Rodriguez, different Alex Rodriguez, leased the facility from the city of Las Vegas and added the 3/8-mile short track back in 1985. Ralph Engelstad partnered with William Bennett of the Sahara Hotel and opened a new $72 million super speedway on the site in 1996. The first race at the Speedway was with an IndyCar event. NASCAR came in 1998 with the Truck Series. So in 2006, the track was reconfigured, increasing the banking from the original 12 degrees to 20. It's a big difference there.
Oh, yes.
This reconfiguration entailed what they call progressive banking, which increases the degree of banking on a gradient towards the outside of the track. This allowed for more side-by-side racing, which we all know and love. One of the things LVMS is known for is the Neon Garage, which features live entertainment and unprecedented access to the drivers and teams, such as viewing areas for fans to watch their favorite drivers' cars get worked on, and even a chance to talk to the drivers. That's your Track Facts, brought to you by ROYellow.com. Anything you want to add about Las Vegas?
One of the things I do like about it is the Neon Garage. I mean, every racetrack has the ability for you to go up and see the cars. At Darlington, I was able to get behind the pit wall and look around out there what they're doing. But the Neon Garage really gets you right on top of things, and you do have a lot of opportunities to meet not just crew members, but drivers, maybe crew chiefs. There's a lot more opportunities there. And, man, I mean, place your bets for this race coming up, because this is going to be one heck of a race.
Absolutely. And speaking of that, going to finish the show the same way we always do. Place your bets. Who you got in Vegas?
For the Xfinity Series, I'm going to have to go with Christopher Bell. He had a solid run. I know. But what can you say?
When it's right?
He's done very well. I can't say Cole Custer and Tyler Ray have been great as well, but Christopher Bell also had a solid run earlier this season here. I'm going to have to go with him. For the Cup Series, I mean, it's been, like I said, it's been a toss-up between Keselowski and Logano. I just said Keselowski earlier, but I know in the segment I said Logano. So it's like, I might as well go Logano here.
Right.
So
Flip a coin, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. Place your bets in Vegas or anywhere else. You heard it here first.
Oh, Truck Series, Ross Chastain.
Well, that's another easy pick as well. Yeah, also having a great season is Ross Chastain. So put that one down in your betting books as well. And that is going to do it for this edition of Ross Racing and the RO Sports Show, all of which brought to you by ROYellow.com, Richmond County's new business directory online. That is Russell Parker. I'm Matt Errolson. Everybody have a great week, and we'll see you next week for another edition of the RO Sports Show.